Hello, and welcome to the Specialty Matcha Podcast. My name is Ryan. This is my co-host Zongjun,
Hello, hello.
who also goes by Sam, and we're the co-founders of Senko Matcha Products.
Yeah, we launched this podcast to discuss our learning journey in matcha, share startup stories, and interview experts. And today we have James from No Bad Matcha join us. Welcome, James.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. To give you a background about myself, I am a cafe owner and the founder of No Bad Matcha, and I am based in a small province here in the Philippines.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Yeah, so about my story, I started a cafe way back 2022, so like 3 years ago, fueled by the lack of good matcha or just authentic matcha from where I am at. So upon launching a matcha latte product that used actual real matcha, we gained reputation. So with how good our matcha is. So with that, we started to introduce and share authentic matcha to cafes around us inside our province, making it more accessible to people around us. So for No Bad Matcha, we really focus solely on cafes, slow bars, and pop-ups. So we'll be able to reach more number of people compared to selling matcha to individuals. It also gives us and our partner farms the assurance that the matcha is actively moving and not staying away in someone's fridge.
That's nice. Only good matcha, no bad matcha.
Yeah,
And like most things, it sounds like it came out of some like personal frustration, like the founding of it,
yeah.
like the inability to find good matcha.
When I started the business, it's like there are 20 cafes around me in my province, but not a single one serving real matcha. But matcha is riddled upon everyone's menu. It's like everyone's mislabeling matcha.
And when was that?
It's like 2022 and
2022.
around 2023. Yeah.
Did you fall into matcha in the first place? Where did you
Uh,
grow an appreciation for it?
I first experienced matcha around 2010 when Starbucks
Wow,
introduced
very
matcha in the
early.
Philippines. That's my first experience with matcha. Years after that, my next experience would be chocolates, matcha chocolates, Kit Kat matcha,
Mm.
Okay.
bought home by my dad, who works as a seaman or seafarer. So after that, around 2019, when I had the opportunity to travel to Japan for work, I experienced matcha firsthand, and I actually saw how it was processed. And I was actually surprised how hard it is to make matcha. The work
Yeah.
involved, not just about the farming, but also the processing. It's like very eye-opening
Very cool. Where
for
did you
someone who, yeah,
where did you travel in Japan to see all the matcha production?
the matcha production I saw was at Nishio, Japan.
Initial.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
It's like
Okay.
a tea farm tour that is included in our vacation package.
Okay.
Lucky you. You went there before all of these hypes. Now it's like
Yeah.
Wow, really?
crowded everywhere.
Especially to Nishio.
Mm.
Yeah.
Much more off the beaten path. Cool. So, would love to learn about how you've seen the evolution of matcha in the Philippines and it being adopted. And you made a lot of references to fake matcha or not real
Yeah.
matcha. So, what was being served, and how has that been changing, and how has the consumer awareness kind of followed that path?
Yeah. So back in 2010, when I first tried matcha with Starbucks, it was really good for me. It was actually decent. Then what happened is around 2015 onwards, there was a sudden fluctuation of milk tea or bubble tea shops, what we call the bubble tea era or the milk tea era.
Okay.
There was
Yeah.
a price war because of the number of shops opening up. There was a price war. And to lower down the cost, matcha has been treated as an artificial flavoring, just like what they did to other bubble tea flavors. So, yeah, matcha was really bastardized here in the Philippines because of too much milk tea shops serving cheap products that uses cheap ingredients. So, what I encounter most of the time are generic green tea powders, the one that are almost pale yellow to pale green and chalky and sandy in texture. Then after that era, we are currently here where what we like to call the coffee shop era. So for the past 5 years, it's like coffee shops are opening up everywhere in the Philippines. Local coffee shops, big coffee shops, name it all. And I have a friend who is actually an importer and distributor of espresso machines. And he told me that Wow, the business is really doing good for us because for a month we are selling around hundreds to thousands of espresso machines,
Wow.
meaning that
Okay.
a lot of coffee shops are opening up and like 90% of their customers are cafe owners, and there was a small percentage for home brewers who actually wants to buy an espresso machine for home. So recently, this past few months, we've seen a lot of cafe centric, matcha centric cafes that are opening up. That is challenging the market for matcha. So, matcha centric stores are actually eating up the market share for matcha of coffee shops that are serving fake matcha. So, what we have in this season right now, there are a lot of matcha places that serves real matcha. So the coffee shops that are not serving real matcha are being challenged to upgrade their game, to upgrade to real matcha. And what we also observed is the sudden influx of matcha home brewers, fueled by the lack of cafes serving real matcha. Yeah, you can see it in all over TikTok, Instagram Reels. There are a lot of content creators making matcha at home just because they can make it better than cafes. Yeah, that's what I observed.
That's really interesting. I like how you did find that in eras too. It's
Yeah.
it's
So
interesting that
from
you say that.
bubble tea shops, yeah, from bubble tea shops, the price war was passed down to the coffee shops right now, actually. So some coffee shops are fighting for prices, while some are the specialty coffee shops are fighting for quality. But
Yeah.
the knowledge about matcha was being left behind, and just recently, a lot of tea educators are doing the right thing, doing the good thing for us, for tea enjoyers, for people making matcha, for the farmers, to educate people about what is real matcha.
Very important work. We were talking with some people who had met some tea farmers in, I think it was in Yame, and a
Yeah,
very like famous producer. And the producer was saying, they asking them like, what do you fear about the shortage?
yeah,
And what's going on with all this matcha hype. And he used the word scared, but it was scared that people weren't going to ever learn the taste of true matcha. And it's exactly this problem where you have a race to the top and a race to the bottom with the price wars. And it's like the bottom piece where the people who, are much more cost conscious getting served a product that is being called matcha but just isn't. It's an interesting phenomenon. It actually seems very common across just Asia in general, as like this whole idea of coffee and cafes and now moving into matcha has exploded. Because we've noticed a similar phenomenon in China, we've noticed it in Thailand, where there's this race to the top or race to the bottom in these very new segments of these small businesses that just didn't exist like 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely for sure. It's really, by the end of the day, what do you exactly care, right? It's you care about the quantity, you care about serving more, or you care about the quality, or you care about consumer education. So yeah, actually curious to learn about your sourcing philosophy, James. Like
hmm.
when you source matcha, like what do you consider as like good matcha or up to your standard of matcha?
For sourcing matcha, we try to stick with the farms that harvest tencha once or twice a year only. And for our customers, we try to be as transparent to our clients with the information that we are allowed to share. Because some farmers are really secretive when it comes to their matcha, most especially what cultivars are inside your blend. Some of them really answers bigly, and some will not even care to answer. Like this is trade secret. We are not allowed to share.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've
and
experienced that.
also, yeah, for quality control, we have an internal quality control. For example, we bring batches of matcha. So for every batch, one kilo will be given to my cafe here, my personal cafe, and then we will check our tasting notes, our texture, if it actually lines up to what we have been getting for the past year.
That's awesome. That's like doing your
Yeah,
own internal quality control per batch. Do you ever notice
yeah.
big changes, or is it generally pretty consistent?
Generally pretty consistent, but this year actually gave us better matcha this harvest season.
Mm.
It's like the matcha has been, the farmer told me it's because of the season and not really about the blend. They haven't changed anything with their blending only the harvest season.
Interesting. So they're blending to keep it the same cultivars, but they're not blending to keep it the same flavor, even though the cultivar flavor profiles
Yeah,
change because of the harvest
yeah,
season. That's an interesting like blending concept because usually it's like the other way around. That's
Yeah, usually you
interesting.
try to maintain flavor consistency.
But it's
Interesting.
cool from a specialty lens because like all of your accounts then you can be like, hey, like then you introduce like the concept of vintage and like this year is much
yeah.
better than last year. Here are tasting notes, here's the difference. Like it's
More
but it
interesting.
also sets a really cool expectation that it's not going to necessarily always taste exactly the same every year. It's something that we noticed was a real problem. We used to work a lot in the craft artisanal industries, and it was a big problem for craft beer because craft beer has variable ingredients. The hops every year can be different. The malt, the barley can be very different every year, every season. And it's really hard to maintain consistency. But in the wine industry, no one expects consistency because there's some good years, there's some bad years. But like setting that idea in people's minds early is like a really cool concept because just, it really should be the case in matcha.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's really cool.
So I would like to share more about the challenges when it comes to specialty coffee cafes because we have a lot of new clients that are from specialty coffee industry.
Hmm.
So to share more about this, actually some cafe owners, specialty coffee cafe owners actually have high respect and care when it comes to coffee, but the same amount of respect and care is lost when it comes to their non-coffee options, including matcha. So what we do, how we approach them oftentimes is we give them the hard truth that they are mislabeling if they are putting matcha in their menu and serving something that is clearly not matcha. And for specialty coffee cafes, mislabeling is a big deal and it ruins reputation. So for us at No Bad Matcha, we need to start giving cafe owners the idea that matcha is not just like any other generic green tea, and we need to emphasize that it is a higher quality green tea with a more meticulous process, giving it a name of its own. Therefore, by labeling something as matcha in their menu, they are already giving a certain standard of expectation to the customers.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is that generally received well, or sometimes they're a bit defensive?
When dealing with coffee owners in the specialty coffee industry, some of them really have high egos when it comes to quality.
I'm
So what
sure.
we do most of the time is we always bring a pack of samples and we try to compare side by side and seeing that their quality is not standing up to real matcha. It's like I need to change ASAP. Yeah.
You can't argue with what's in the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Interesting. So how have you seen like the workflows? I guess the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to like a matcha program and how the baristas actually how their station's set up.
I observe a lot of workflows for cafes that involves a nice matcha setup actually. Some cafes are willing to add additional manpower just to have someone dedicated to matcha alone. So when it comes to workflow, there is no single approach when it comes to this. So we try to get information from them, like how many cups are you trying to serve per day, the volume of customers per hour, and your target turnaround time. Recently, coffee-centric cafes are now starting to have separate matcha stations, separate barista, while some are adjusting workflows to accommodate matcha without having to hire additional manpower. So they are not making matcha the traditional way with whisk. Some are using blenders, some are using hand whisk, just to give space to their matcha. So when it comes to consistency, cafes with dedicated manpower and dedicated matcha stations will give better quality and better consistency compared to those who have that.
And you see like most people using like variable temperature kettle and scales and like the same coffee hardware just purposed for matcha, of course other than the whisk and the bowl, but this type of thing.
Yeah, I observed that too. But for some cafes that do not have a dedicated matcha station, they usually adjust the recipe. Like they do cold whisking and they sometimes use variable kettle temperatures like close to what they use with coffee.
Hmm. Got it.
So around 90 for some cafes. I
Okay.
recommend brewing at around 80 to 85, but I always tell them that there really is no rule about that, about temperatures. You can calibrate your matcha however you like. Just give enough care and try to taste or cup your matcha when brewing at higher temperatures. It will serve up to your standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is most of the matcha in the Philippines served in a latte, or is it Americano, like just water based, or what's the ratio of what people order typically?
It's a latte. Like I'll say 95 to 99% of orders will be matcha latte.
Got it. Yeah. Well, it's like the rest of the
There,
world.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
interesting. I've always found it weird that Japanese companies aren't doing more investment in optimizing for matcha latte. Because like so much is consumed with milk, but I think all of their sensory and flavor measurement is not in that application. It's
yeah.
and like
Well, it's hard because milk tastes different across different countries too.
that's so true.
Yeah, it's very different actually.
Yeah.
That's a hard problem space.
Because even
Like
within
there's
oat
so
milk,
much more room for growth.
So when you see all these coffee shops set up their matcha program, do you necessarily see a impact or influence of their coffee theory into selecting matcha? Like if some coffee
Mm,
shops prefer like more roasted beans, would they like prefer yame versus uji and all that?
that is more of a location issue. So here in my province, it's like not necessarily with the prefecture from where the matcha is coming from, but they are adjusting with their recipe. So in my province, from where I'm at, people like their matcha latte with a balanced profile. So just a little bit of sweetener, a balanced matcha and milk ratio. While from other provinces, like from the one I recently handled, like 2 hours away from here. They like their matcha latte sweet. So the sugar ratio is higher than the usual. The matcha ratio is a little bit less and more milk. While some other provinces would like their matcha very hard. If you've been talking to Miss Monique Pereda from Matcha Moment, she's from Batangas. So people from up there have their version of coffee that they call Barako coffee, or it's like a very strong version of coffee. So the recipe of the matcha up there leans towards the more concentrated matcha. Yeah,
Interesting.
interesting.
yeah. People have been adjusting recipes, not yet with the prefecture
Mm.
from where the matcha is sourced. And also, not a lot of matcha distributors have varying partner farms from different prefectures.
Mm. Feels like we're the early days for a lot of that. It's
Yeah,
like generally hard to find like regional matcha sourcing, I think. And just in general at this point. Other than maybe Bangkok, like it seems like you have to do quite a bit of searching in any other place in the world to get like these really regional differences. So
It's hard to find
yeah.
matcha in general right
Yeah,
now.
it's hard to find. Hard to find no bad matcha in most
Yeah.
places.
yeah.
How do you approach like recipe development from like a consultant's point of view? I recently had someone
Uh,
reach out, they emailed us. I forget what country they were from, but I think it was somewhere in the Middle East, and they were looking to open a cafe, wanted some like consultancy help with recipe development. And I wasn't exactly sure what to tell them. It's like, you just like adjust ratios until you get it right, but like how do you approach that? And like, what's the question set that you ask someone if a business comes to you and say, I need help with my recipes. I think it can be better. What should I
okay.
start changing to make adjustments?
So for recipe development, it all boils down again to the volume of matcha you are trying to serve. Ask them, will you consider yourself as a slow bar or a fast-paced cafe? Because recipes can be adjusted based on the workflow. So if you are using a hand whisk, you are incorporating a lot of air to your matcha. So you need a higher matcha ratio to make it taste like it is hand whisked. Yeah, you have to adjust. It also involves a lot of self-tasting and a few group tasting sessions after all, because it should also reflect your interpretation of the drink. So when we make recipes for our cafe, it will always be first, it will have to pass my tasting preferences. So if it pass my tasting preferences, next I will let someone taste it. Someone from a group. We have a very active coffee club in here who helps us with the sensory aspects when it comes to our drinks. So also in my experience and other home brewers' experience, homemade and natural ingredients are what works best, and that's as well with matcha.
Mm.
Syrups with artificial flavorings are really unstable and hard to work with when partnered with authentic matcha, based on our experience only.
Mm. It doesn't balance well with the
Yeah,
artificial. Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
I experienced some cafes that are marketed as low bars, but with the amount of people coming in, the baristas are really pressured to work fast and toss some things around. So I always remind them that you are being marketed as a slow bar. So you have to act like it. When people are making a decision in coming to your cafe, they always have in mind that this is a slow bar. Like I have to allot like 10 to 20 minutes of my time just to get my drink. Yeah.
The expectations already set.
Yes.
Interesting. So
Well,
so you run like a, coffee kind of like a local coffee community, like with all the coffee
Yeah.
lovers, and you do like all the matcha tasting with.
Yeah.
Cool.
that's
Do you
cool.
blending with like any educational kind of content, like kind of like a work?
We're actually doing local workshops to different cafes, but all of our workshop are focused solely on how matcha is being treated on a cafe. Yeah, because there are different approaches when it comes to matcha. There's a different approach for home brewing, and there's a different approach when you are at a cafe setup.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's so true. What makes a good workflow from like an efficiency point of view?
And a
Like,
quality point of view.
yeah, and a quality.
For me, best workflow will always have a setup that is very minimalist. You only have to put what you are bound to use for your workflow. You will not have to add any additional gadgets or stuff that will hinder you from working smoothly. Also, recently, amount of matcha products, amount of gadgets that are coming has been very helpful for cafes, really. It's like a life changing innovation for them. Like some hand whisk for matcha and also the one from Subminimal, the one that makes your milk textured nanofoamer.
Mm.
The
Yeah,
one with
it
the
really
little
helps a
screen
lot.
on it, the little screen
Yeah,
nanofoamer.
yeah.
Yeah, it can texture like a beverage better than like any of the other blender things that I've ever seen. It's really impressive.
And also when I go to new cafes that are interested in matcha, I show them workflows that are too easy and make it not too complicated for them to have an idea that matcha is not really complicated.
Mm.
Mm.
You have to make it approachable for them to integrate matcha to their menu.
Mm.
Yeah. It's such a conundrum because, like, in some senses, preparing matchas can be very simple. But, like, when I talk to, like, new consumers, like friends or friends of friends or something like that, and they want to make matcha at home or in general, and I have to start describing the steps, I realize that, like, it's actually like a lot of, it's also very complicated. It's like, oh, you need to worry about water temperature. You're going to need a scale. You should probably buy a sifter. You're going to need some kind of bowl or something.
Yeah, a lot of
Like, it just,
gadgets.
you gotta refrigerate your
I guess
matcha, but don't put it in the freezer. But if you put it in the freezer, bring it down to room temperature before you open the bag. Like, there's all of these rules. How do you like simplify that to adapt into workflows? Because it must be so easy for like someone who hasn't gone through this training to mess it up.
I think it's because we are comparing baristas, cafe owners to home brewers. When you
Uh,
introduce matcha to cafe owners, it's like an easier version of coffee for them. So if they're serving espresso, they're serving pour overs. Matcha is like an easy walk in the park for them compared to explaining all of this matcha stuff to someone who hasn't brewed coffee at home, to someone who hasn't used a espresso machine. It's really hard to grasp.
Yeah.
But for people with experience in cafe setting, it's like very easy for them.
These are pros, Ryan.
yeah, yeah. I get it's the point of reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I can see a lot of differences from matcha home brewers making matcha versus baristas making matcha. It's like the baristas are making it simple, but it works. Whereas
Uh,
for some home brewers, you will see the steps to be much more complicated, but the result is like the same.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But yeah, I mean, it's so true. But it's also like even in the States, you know, it's you you would think that someone that knows how to operate an espresso machine could avoid the basic mistakes of matcha. I think for
Yeah.
50% of the cafes, it's a very, very, very sad corner.
How large would you say the average like space footprint of people's matcha station in the cafes that you have interact with? Like what's the percentage compared to the coffee sector?
Comprising the bar area is like 80% will be dedicated to coffee, then the 20%
Okay.
is for matcha.
That's like pretty significantly large compared to
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
other setups we've seen. So like they give it a lot of space. That's
And do you see people mix use, equipment between coffee and matcha, or do they usually have a dedicated set of preparation for matcha?
They
Or would you?
usually have a dedicated set.
Oh, okay, okay.
wow.
Wow, people are
That's
getting
great.
serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, for cafes, matcha-centric cafes, it goes the other way around. So it will be 80% is for matcha, 20% is for
There we
coffee.
go.
Yeah.
So when you have like, if you go in, if you're like a mystery shopper or undercover consumer, and you go into a cafe and you chit chat with the barista or the person at the counter taking your order, asking about their matcha program, what's the quality of responses and the confidence that you've seen? And then how do you like address a lot of the problems that you see with like the trainings that you do in staff education?
Like a large number of baristas are very dismissive when it comes to matcha. So asking questions about matcha, they will come up with answers that I don't know. Our supplier doesn't talk much about the matcha. Like it's been given around to them, just like any other powder ingredients.
Mm,
So for matcha education, what I see that is lacking to new baristas is the storage of matcha. Also for cafe owners, some are even storing their matcha in transparent jars along with
yeah.
their cocoa powders, their prop bases. And also I like to point out that matcha is a suspension.
Mm,
Many baristas are thinking that matcha is just like coffee, you are extracting something.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the truth is, it is a suspension. You have to keep in mind how a suspension works just in making your drinks and making your recipes. Like some of them are very curious. Why is my matcha powder settling down after some few minutes? Is it fake? We get a lot of questions like that. Also, ratios and water temperature. I'd like to tell them that use it as a guide, but always feel free to explore what will happen to your matcha if it goes around 90 degrees Celsius, 95, 100. Because different matcha will react different way from different temperatures. Also the ratio, yeah, you can pretty much adjust the ratio of your matcha based on how fine it was grind from the factory.
Interesting. So you do thicker ratios for less fine particles?
We can do much more thicker ratios if the matcha powder is grind fine than usual.
Yeah, because it's more packed.
Because if you distribute your ratio to something like 1 is to 20 and your matcha is like coarsely grinded, it will be sandy and chalky to the texture. To teach about texturing when it comes to hot matcha lattes, yeah, that one is what is pretty much lacking even in cafes that are matcha centric. When you order something like a hot matcha latte, you'll get something with good matcha but has bad texture.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Do you guys try to make your own matcha lattes at home, or are you more of a sucha guy?
Mostly usucha nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or an Americano kind of thing. But I do occasionally do some sensory work on lattes. I'm
Mm.
really fascinated by the flavor profile transformation that happens when you mix matcha with milk. And I think that a lot of people on the internet are too reductive in saying that you're covering up subtlety and nuance and you're really just changing the taste. And I've noticed that you can mix some really high-end matcha and I do it in very small quantities. Like I do 1 gram, I make a very concentrated thing and just put in splashes of milk to taste what happens. And there are some really interesting transformations on completely non-bitter matcha. With the splash of milk, you get flavors that just did not exist before that are just
Yeah.
as
We get that
interesting
a lot.
as when it's with water. Like sometimes it's kind of cheesy almost. Like a lot of this very umami heavy matchas with a splash of oat milk. It's almost leans into like a mascarpone kind of like Italian, like sweet, creamy cheeses.
Like a cream.
Or yeah, like cream cheese or these like cream cheese foam that you see at some of the high end like bubble tea places. Like
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of work to be explored on the high end. And like you
Okay.
don't just need second harvest that is like very just bitter. And like this first harvest stuff can taste really good.
I think a lot of people are that because like some matcha, like it does cover some, flavor characteristic of some good matcha, right? And I feel like that the argument really shouldn't be that don't use good matcha for latte. I think it should be like we should try to make some good matcha designed for be put into a latte scenario. Like latte deserves good quality matcha, but you have to think it the other way around, right? Not like trying to find matcha to be put into latte, but trying to design a good matcha or matcha flavor profile specifically for latte. You actually see that in some of the older tea houses already doing that, like Hori Shichimeyan. But I feel like more people should be doing it. It's really a gateway for people to get into the world of matcha. Like so many people got into matcha because of matcha latte, and this deserves a better name, a better flavor.
Yeah. And all the traditional companies, if they do have a matcha latte, or a lot of them, it's just the lowest and cheapest thing. It's their confectionery grade or barista
Third
grade.
harvest sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, third harvest, maybe even fourth harvest now with the matcha shortage. We've heard some horror stories about that stuff. And like, where's the quality spectrum? Like it's like they cap it at a certain point, and then they're only thinking about usacha drinkers, which is really a shame because it's not what most matcha consumers are anymore. Like, yeah, there's some usacha drinker. I mean, we're usacha drinkers, but like that's like a very small percentage of the market. It's just the historical market maybe, so that's, like, still what they're thinking about.
Yeah. They need to try to see it at the milk tea point of view. If the tea that was used for milk tea was not incorporated with milk, it will not bloom at all. Just
It
like
doesn't
matcha. If we will be dismissive when it comes to matcha lattes, adding milk, adding some flavor enhancers, the matcha will really not grow as something as a part of a cafe beverage.
mm,
I guess the whole coffee kind of mindset also blends into the perception of quality. In a specialty coffee, you don't necessarily expect to put high quality coffee into like milk, or
Yeah.
you expect to drink it neat. So I guess it happens both ways. But
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
Because
know it
I
happens.
think they deserves a better name and also better quality.
yeah.
What's the standard dose of matcha in the Philippines? Is it, like, 2 grams, 3, 4?
For usucha, we usually suggest 1 to 2 grams per serving. But for lattes, the standard drink size is for iced lattes here in the Philippines is 16 ounce. That's like the average size. So
16.
for 16 ounce iced matcha, we suggest around 5 grams of matcha powder.
Wow. That makes sense.
Also for
16 ounces is a lot of
yeah,
volume.
12 for 12 ounce hot, we also suggest 5.
Mm.
Okay, that's good. That's what they need to do in the States. I mean, these people
Yeah.
some of these cafes are dosing like 2 grams or less for a 16-ounce beverage. At that point, it's
Wow.
just a color.
Just the coloring.
So we're kind of in the matcha hardware business, and you do a lot of work with cafes, so we'll ask a self-indulgent question. If there was a piece of matcha hardware that you wish existed in the world, what would it be? And, like, what would its function be?
This is a wish list question. We'll make it happen.
Oh, wish
We'll
list.
try to make it happen.
More of something that will whisk your matcha consistently, that will produce a certain amount of microfoam, not too much, consistently. Also, a nice addition would be a very mobile matcha grinding station or something that we can use to process tencha for cafes. Because for the current setup of cafes in the Philippines and in most parts of the world, they have coffee grinders. It's like a must-have part of your cafe bar, your coffee shop. You cannot operate it without a coffee grinder. So by putting something like a tencha grinder in the cafe setup, it will change things a lot. It's like having fresh ground matcha is much more game changing than using matcha that was ground weeks ago or even months ago. It will bring out a different experience for goers, cafe hoppers.
That's for sure. We're working on that.
Yeah,
Hopefully that future is sooner than we all
Yeah.
think.
But for an auto whisker, do you see that, looking more similar to a traditional chasen, or, retain the structure? Or do you think that, a more innovative mechanism will be okay?
not really limiting with the manual whisking that will be automated, but anything that would make the work easier will be accepted by cafes.
Oh, okay.
Because for some cafes, convenience is key. They like to do things fast, as convenient as possible, with as little work as possible. The biggest cafe I partner with here in the Philippines produces like 300 to 500 cups of matcha a day.
Wow.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
Okay.
lot.
Wow, that's really high
with
volume.
a dose of 5 grams per drink.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, they move through a lot of matcha.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow, those are some crazy volumes. Wait, 300 cups a day at 5
Yeah,
grams?
on a slow day, 500 cups on a good day.
So let's say
Wow.
on average 400 times 5, 2 kilos a day. Wow.
Yeah, that's just for the
I
drinks. They also have pastries, soft serve, and cookies that are matcha free.
Wow, so maybe
Yeah,
add
so
another
on
kilo.
average, they use like 3 kilos a day.
Wow, that's insane. That's almost they use over a metric ton of matcha a year.
No,
That's
like 7 metric tons of matcha a year.
Yeah,
am I doing my math wrong?
Yeah, times 300
It's
and
30. No, because it's 100 kg a month. A little
two.
over.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Almost 1 metric ton.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Wow, that's crazy. I heard of some cafes in London recently doing, I think it was between 5 to 10 kg a month, but up to
mm,
10 or 12, and I thought, "Wow, that's a lot." But
five to ten.
compared to this, that's nothing
Yeah, 5 to 10 kg is like the average volume of cafes here in the Philippines
per month.
per month. Yeah, 5 to 10 kg.
Wow, wait, these are gigantic volumes. But this
Yeah,
is not like a small part of the sales.
yeah.
Like,
Here in my province, personally in my shop, we use around 1 to 2 kilos only per month. And from
okay,
the other neighboring shops that I supply matcha to here in our province, the largest consumption is like 3 kilos a month. But for the metro and other provinces, that the demand is too high.
wow. Well, this
Yeah,
is that those volumes are crazy. That was not what I would have guessed.
yeah,
That's like next level
yeah.
compared to
At
what I see
our current
here.
rate of importation, when I started this business like 3 years ago, I import only around 10 kilos to 20 kilos monthly. When I launched No Bad Matcha this January this year, we skyrocketed to 50 kilos monthly. But now, almost halfway through the year, we're doing 200 kilos a month.
Wow.
whoa,
Wow, you
Yeah,
guys are a major importer.
exponential.
yeah,
Yeah, and the growth. That's
Yeah, the
crazy.
yeah.
growth.
Congrats.
Easy.
We're
That's
actually
incredible.
avoiding social media ads. From the start, we haven't launched any social media sponsored ad because we cannot just keep up with the demand. The struggle that I see for someone like us, someone importing matcha that has good quality, the big cafe partners are actually gatekeeping us. They are not accepting a collaboration post, or they're not helping out our company in any way to boost our social media following. And from their point of view, they told me that they are avoiding competitors with the supply, and also they're telling us that some cafe around us are copying their suppliers, sniping suppliers from them, which are they are trying to avoid actively.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Wow, that's crazy. Congratulations. Like,
Yeah.
that is some
thank you.
insane growth. Like, this is really having a huge impact. And, this is like exactly what needs to happen from like that Japanese farmer's perspective, who said that
Yeah,
he's afraid that the world is only going to be tasting fake matcha. Like, this is like the actual hard work that needs to get done every day across all these businesses and all the consumers that serves. Because if you think about like your business and then your accounts and then your consumers. It's incredible leverage getting a great product that's actually real matcha in all of these hands and all of these cafes. I mean, it's probably tens of thousands of consumers, and, like, that's only going to be growing. So like, thank you. That's really incredible, and, like, it really needs to happen so that people can taste real matcha. Like, it's only with, like, companies like yours that that's ever going to happen, and, like, giving people the knowledge and the supply to create a great experience.
And what we do on our part is we also handpick our partner cafes. If they cannot give justice to the matcha that we are serving, we are supplying them, we are
Yeah.
actually pulling out our matcha from them.
Mm,
So we had like two cafes that we pulled out from just because they are not storing the matcha properly, serving it properly.
Whoa. Oh, you, like, will stop supplying them?
Yeah, yeah,
Whoa.
wow.
Wow, that's great too. Wow, that's next
yeah.
level dedication.
Yeah.
Wow,
Not
that's
just by
very
training them.
inspiring.
We do random
Yeah,
visits.
Wow.
wow.
That's serious. That's
Whoa,
great.
hats
Yeah,
off. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's next level.
You're setting up like a new industry standard basically, which is awesome.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Never heard of that. That's crazy. I love
Yeah.
it.
Philippines is relatively small to do that possibly, but for countries with larger regions, it's like that would be very hard to do.
Uh,
That's true. That's
yeah.
true. Then they can just easily switch to a different supplier.
Yeah.
That's very
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very inspiring.
You only heard of this kind of story in like, you know, electronics, these high-tech supply chains, but not necessarily in food and beverage, which is awesome.
You don't hear about that very often at all. Like,
Yeah.
like sacrificing business because someone's not doing the product justice.
Also, after sales
No,
is like the main selling point of No Bad Matcha.
I should like
Yes.
publish some kind of label. Like these
Yeah.
coffee shops are, supplied by No Bad Matcha. Like this is really, you guys are really making a quality statement.
Yeah. 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 Only with their consent. Like I said, the bigger coffee shops ordering 10 kilos, 20 kilos monthly, they are not really willing to be part of our marketing.
Mm.
Yeah.
it's bittersweet, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, bittersweet.
Hmm.
That's great. So, James, what's your future growth plan in the Philippines? Do you expect to expand beyond the country? And also, along the way, have you find any like-minded people that's willing to fight the battle with you?
For now, for No Bad Matcha, we are aiming to focus solely in the Philippines.
Only in the
And
Philippines.
recently, in my workshops, the ones that I conduct here in my cafe and on other cafes, we are actually producing like-minded people that are helping us in importing good matcha and distributing it to other people. We don't mind at all if they become competitors in the future because for
Mm,
us, we are still at our current situation for matcha. We need more middlemen. We need more importers. We need more distributors for cafes to be flooded with real matcha and eliminate the use of fake matcha. So for
Mm.
No Bad Matcha, we produce like less than 50 students only, but some of them, like 1 out of 10, has been gaining popularity when it comes to matcha. From making their own cafes to being a distributor for e-commerce shops. Like Matcha Moments, he's actually one of my
Oh, yeah.
first
Oh, yeah.
batch of students. Yeah.
yeah,
Small
unique.
world. Okay.
So
Awesome.
yeah. So like a big part of my students from now on, I see them making their own cafes, matcha-centric cafes, matcha pop-ups. And to be part of their journey, part of their growth, it is just an honor for me to share the knowledge for good matcha, how to prepare it, and how to prepare it for the people to like it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And they say that some of the most like successful restaurants that have ever existed, and I hear this within the context of New York City, are the ones that produce the most number of alumni that go
Mm,
out and
Yeah.
start their own successful restaurants. And it sounds like a very similar mentality.
yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that it's a restaurant, but same spirit.
You see that in the cocktail bar scene. All these bartenders, they all kind of graduated from like a handful of good bars.
Yeah, at the current situation of matcha in the Philippines, I don't compete for clients. It's the other way around. The clients compete for my stocks. The demand is
Wow.
just too high for competition to actually exist.
That's great.
Yeah.
At least that's especially great because then you can demand quality. because
Yeah,
and maybe that's like the silver lining of the matcha shortage. Like if it's difficult to find a supplier, you can be like, "Yeah, I'm happy to supply you, but we got to do some staff training. We're going to make sure that you're
yeah,
preparing it right and really make sure the quality standards are there."
Yeah, a
And
lot
yeah,
of
then
leverage.
it's not a race to the bottom. Oh, I love it.
That's
That's
wonderful.
very energizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 'cause we've had a lot of conversations recently with the, like, other side, like, on the Japanese tea farming side and
mhm,
people that, like, have recently visited Origins talking about how terrified all these matcha farmers are, and, like, this is, like, an exact solution to that problem.
yeah,
Yeah. I hope we can bring the words to the other side too, Ryan.
Yeah.
Both words both words needs to know each other's existence, I feel like. It's, quite
Yeah.
yeah,
energizing.
Yeah, very
That's awesome.
hopeful. Wow.
Yeah, very
Made
hopeful.
my day.
yeah.
Awesome.
Actually, the tea farm I partnered with is also very conscious with how we use their matcha. They always take me like, James, take good care of our matcha. If a customer is rejecting the matcha, do not throw it away. Send it back to me, and I will replace it.
Wow, wow. That's, like, next
Yeah,
level commitment on their side too.
yeah. And we haven't experienced any dissatisfied customers. Like everyone is giving good feedback.
That's a good sign.
It's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
I guess we need to travel down
Well, I
to
think it's a great
Philippines,
place to
taste all the
yeah.
results.
Also, my advice for new distributors, new people that are coming in to the matcha market, I would advise that they would try to focus in promoting matcha to cafes that are not using real matcha. So they do not have to snipe other cafes that are already using real matcha because competing and comparing two matchas is very hard and will oftentimes the cafe will still choose what they are currently using instead of choosing you. So to get an easy sale, it's better to promote to someone not using real matcha. You can do a side by side comparison and immediately get the sale.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, a lower hanging
Yeah.
fruit.
yep,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really important, sort of battle to be won, so to speak, so for everyone and for our industries. Yeah, thank you.
yep,
Well, I think that's a great place to end, and thank you so much, James, for coming on, and thank you to all the listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend and give No Bad Matcha a follow, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.
Yeah.
yep.
Thank
Drink
you.
some good
Bye bye.
matcha.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Don't drink bad matcha.